In 2015, a small Polish mining town made a $200 million discovery. Not in gold, not in artifacts, in headlines. Two treasure hunters said they had found a Nazi train buried underground, loaded with looted gold. For a short time, people really believed one of World War II's biggest lost treasures had finally been found. Then the scientists showed up. There was no train, there wasn't even a tunnel. But by then, the town had already found something else. A story can sometimes be worth more than the treasure itself. To understand how a legend can out-earn the truth, we need to go back to the final, chaotic weeks of a collapsing empire. It's the spring of 1945. The Third Reich is folding in on itself. The Soviet army is closing in from the east and across occupied Europe. Nazi officials are scrambling to move what they've stolen before it's seized by someone else. This part isn't legend, it's documented. Weeks earlier, American soldiers broke into a mine at Merkers and found the actual Reichsbank gold reserves bars, currency, looted art, stacked floor to ceiling. So the idea of Nazi treasure vanishing by rail wasn't invented in 2015. It was already real, just a few hundred miles away, and that is why the rumor was so easy to believe. What was different about Wałbrzych, a quiet mining town in what's now southwestern Poland, was that nothing there was ever confirmed. Just a rumor. A train, they said, left Breslau, passed through a small station, and disappeared before it reached its next stop, swallowed somewhere into the tunnels of Project Riese, a secret, unfinished Nazi construction complex carved beneath a castle. No wreckage, no manifest, no confirmed witness happened. Only a story passed down from person to person for 70 years. Everything about the legend stayed folklore, until one retired miner decided to talk. His name was Tadeusz Sowiekowski. In the 1970s, he says, a German man told him a story. A train, gone, somewhere on the line between Breslau and Wałbrzych, in the last days of the war. For decades, Sowiekowski held on to it. He told authorities, he says he was quietly waved off again and again. It's easy to see why. Communist Poland had no interest in chasing ghost stories from the Nazi era, and by the time the Cold War ended, the tale had become local color, the kind of story every mining town seems to keep in its back pocket. Picture it, a dim tavern in Wałbrzych, decades after the war. An old miner repeating a rumor nobody can verify, to anyone who'll still listen. That was the entire evidence base the legend rested on for 40 years. Then, in August 2015, everything changed. Two amateur treasure hunters, a Pole named Piotr Koper and a German named Andreas Richter, said they'd done what the Polish army couldn't. Using ground-penetrating radar, they claimed to have located a 100-meter object, buried 8 to 9 meters down, in a stretch of track near the old rail line. But here is the important part. They didn't show the world a train, they showed the world a signal. And sometimes, a signal is enough to start a story. They didn't just go public, they went to the government. And the government didn't laugh them out of the room. It cut them a deal, a 10% finder's fee if the treasure was real. That single decision is where an old miner's story stopped being folklore and became a national event. Reporters came in. Tourists started paying attention. People who had never heard of Wałbrzych suddenly wanted to know what was buried under it. But here is where the story takes a darker turn. Within days, Poland's deputy culture minister, Piotr Uchowski, stood in front of cameras and said he was 99% certain the train was real, an actual armored train, like the ones described from the war. That's not a private treasure hunter talking. That's a government official putting his credibility behind an unconfirmed radar blip. And once someone official says 99% certain, people don't hear doubt. They hear confirmation. Ask yourself this: if the evidence was genuinely that strong, why did every scientific team that later examined the site come back with nothing? Because that's exactly what happened. By December 2015, Geophysicists from University had studied the site properly, and their conclusion undercut the entire discovery. No train, no tunnel. The radar image that had launched a media storm was most likely an underground ice formation, a trick of geology, not a hidden Reich fortune. Here's where the story should have ended. But it didn't. The search kept going. Poland's army sent explosives experts, worried the train might be booby-trapped. Diggers excavated another 20 meters in 2016 and found more cavities and still no gold. Richter walked away from the project in 2018. Koper didn't. In 2021, he was back with sonar and an underwater drone, this time searching a lake, convinced he'd found a steel signal. It turned out to most likely be the remains of an old lime kiln. Stay with me, because what comes next is the part that most treasure stories leave out. The world was told a treasure hunt. The reality was a town that had learned how to monetize a myth. While Koper kept drilling and diving for a decade, something else was happening in Wałbrzych that had nothing to do with gold. Tourists showed up. Tour guides at the real, historically confirmed Project Riese tunnels reported they could barely keep up with demand. Restaurants filled. Cab drivers reported a surge they'd never seen before. The mayor eventually put a number on it. The free global media coverage the gold train generated was worth an estimated $200 million to the town, against an annual promotion budget of less than $400,000. That's not a rounding error. That's a return on investment most marketing departments would kill for. And it came from a story that scientists had already declared false months earlier. For 70 years, this town held a rumor nobody outside it cared about. Then two treasure hunters and one overconfident official gave it a stage. And once the cameras arrived, whether the train was real stopped being the point. The gold train had already delivered its payout. It just wasn't gold. This isn't just a story about a Polish mining town. Look at how viral claims work right now. A shaky piece of evidence, an authority figure who backs it too fast, a wave of public attention that outlives the fact check by years. The gold train ran on the same engine that runs half your social media feed today. A compelling story spreads faster than its correction ever will. And that is the part worth remembering. The practical takeaway isn't cynicism. It's this: the next time an official stands in front of a camera and says they're 99% certain, ask what the other 1% is built on. Sometimes it's evidence. Sometimes it's hope. Sometimes it's just ice. Most people who've heard of the Nazi gold train think it's a story about buried treasure. They remember the gold. They remember the secret tunnel. They remember the possibility of a buried Nazi treasure waiting under the ground. But now you know the stranger version of the story. 70 years of rumor, a decade of digging, 0 grams of gold, and one town that came out ahead anyway. Because in Wałbrzych, the treasure may never have been underground. It may have been in the story itself. If this story deserved to be uncovered, help us find the next one. Next time, we go into the tunnels of Project Riese itself, the real, confirmed Nazi complex the gold train legend was built on top of. What the Nazis were actually building down there is stranger than any buried train.